You're listening to The Other 50%, a history of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where we talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. In this episode, I got to speak with Beatriz Mascaro. Beatriz is the co-executive producer of the show Teen Mom. She's also worked on some other favorites, At My House, Say Yes to the Dress, What Not to Wear, and A Wedding Story. We talked about her life as a working mom in this business. She is a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old, so she is deep in mommy brain and the evening tornado while still producing her show. You can find us at theother50%.com, and you can also go there to buy the Other 50% merchandise. And you can find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter at Other50%, and on Instagram at Other50% Podcast. And don't forget to check out my other podcast called The Other 50%, a history of tech. You can also find it on iTunes or on the same website. That's where I talk to successful women in tech and hear their stories. Okay, here's Beatriz. So tell me, what is your job?
I am the co-executive producer for Teen Mom OG, the original series.
Teen Mom OG?
Yep.
What does OG stand for?
So, Teen Mom was the first run series, gosh, I think it was like 7 years ago that it started, and then we got canceled, and then we came back. So they called us OG for Original Girls because now we have Teen Mom 2 as well.
I like it. So how did you, take us all the way back, how did you originally get into this business?
I studied telecommunications at the University of Florida with an emphasis on production. And then quickly after I finished my bachelor's, I got a job working on a TLC show as a PA, production assistant. It was a home improvement show in Florida. And within 2 weeks, they promoted me to associate producer, and I was with them for,
How did that happen?
You know what? I was really persistent because I knew that I could handle the AP responsibilities, and I was kind of doing them already, and I just kept telling the EP, like, let me do it. They needed another AP, and he gave me a shot, and that was it. I was an AP in like 2 weeks. So I was really lucky. I wasn't a PA for very long.
So you just jumped to the top.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Good job. And you must have been young at the time, like 21, 22?
Yeah, I think I was a little older. I was probably like 23, 24.
How did you know? Like, how did you have the confidence to say, I can do that job, let me do it?
I don't know. You know, my dad always told me the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I always kept that in my head, and I just knew that I could do it, and I didn't want to be a PA. I just didn't want to get copy. I wanted to be part of the story. I wanted to be in the thick of it, and I was the squeaky wheel.
That was really good advice. Did you always know you wanted to be in entertainment?
No. When I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had an undeclared major, and I thought I wanted to do psychology. I took my first psychology class and realized it wasn't for me, and then one of my electives was mass communications, and I just fell in love with it, and I just kept doing it.
That's great. Okay, so after that first job in Florida, then what happened?
The show moved to New York for 3 months, and I came with it, which was great. Got me out of Florida.
What a great way to move to New York.
Yeah, and it was temporary. It was only for 3 months, and of course, I loved it. And then after the 3 months, we went back to Florida to do another season, and I just, within the production company that I was working with at the time, they had some other shows in New York, and I asked if I could move on to a different show, and they said yes, and so I moved to New York.
That's great. Did you grow up in Florida?
Yes. Well, I was born in California, and then moved to Florida for high school with my family. So I'm kind of, I guess, grew up in both California and Florida.
Yeah. Okay, so then you moved to New York, and did you just work consistently ever since, in reality?
Yeah, I moved, I did. I've never really had a big break in work other than when I was on maternity leave.
Oh my God, you make it sound so easy.
I know. I guess when you think about it, I've been pretty fortunate. I mean, I've had, weeks here and there, but not a big lapse of unemployment.
Yeah. Has it been with the same company or different companies?
Different companies, but usually I stay a long time at those companies. Like I went from this TLC show, and then I went on to do a BBC show, and I was there. I did like 7 seasons, and then I did a little bit of an ABC show, and then I came over to MTV, and I've been here forever. People always say, like, you shouldn't work on the same show for a long time, but for me, it's been beneficial because I've been able to move up the ranks once I've done my time. Mm-hmm. So, like, for a Teen Mom, I started as a story producer, and now I'm the co-executive producer. So, to me, it worked out.
Right, because you're having movement and growth.
Right.
I also thought I saw on IMDb that you're directing also.
I did in the beginning, and I realized quickly that directing wasn't really my passion. I liked more the post side of things. So I directed a little bit just to get the feel for it, and then realized that I'd rather stay in post, and then transferred back to post.
Okay, so explain a little bit how it works in reality. So if you're co-executive producing a show, is your work on the production side, or is it really putting the story together after the fact in post, or both?
I think it's like a new thing these days. They have like co-EPs for field, co-EPs for post, and I'm the co-EP for post. So I work really closely with the co-EP in the field, overseeing story and deciding what story we want to track for this particular series, which is a docu-reality. So once they finish shooting and it comes back to post, I take over and I have my team here, and we build the episodes. Work closely with all the story producers and all the editors. We just kind of do the finishing touches and really craft the story once it's done filming.
Is it what you would imagine it would be when you were starting out?
Yeah, I would say so. Although now as I'm getting older, I'm like, God, why? I should probably do something else. If
you were going to do something else, what would it be?
I have no idea. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, then maybe don't make a big change right now.
Yeah. Because you know what? I feel like not growing up, but when you start out, everyone's older and you're like the young blood. And now I'm part of the older crew, and I see it's like a lot of young people coming up, and I'm like, where are the older ones that are older than me? Where do they go? What happened to them?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think they go to networks and studios.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about your job?
I love how every day is something different. There's always another fire to put out. It's not the same office job, even though I'm in an office every day. It's figuring out how to tell a story, and every day it's a different story that we have to figure out. I guess the creativity of it all. Even though it's reality, it's really like a docu-reality, at least this particular show that I'm working on.
What do you think it is about you that makes you particularly suited to do this job well? I
think I'm a really big team player, and I'm not afraid to take risks and try something new, especially in an edit. I'm open to hearing everyone's suggestions on how to make this story work and how to make it as powerful as it can be. And it's very collaborative. So I kind of have an open mind to it, and I try a lot of new techniques, new ways of telling the story, and I think that's what makes it work.
Mm-hmm. Now you also have little babies.
Yes.
How old are they?
I have a daughter who's 3.5, and I have a son who is 7 months.
That's fresh.
Yeah. No one ever tells you. I mean, one child it's hard, but when you go from 1 to 2, no one ever says, like, it is like you don't know what exhaustion is until you have 2 kids.
Yeah, suddenly one is a vacation, right?
Yeah, I dream about one sometimes.
You didn't know how easy you had it.
Exactly.
You thought that was hard. You didn't know from hard.
Yep.
Now, how have you been able to manage your children while you're having this job?
Still trying to figure it out. With the first child, I took about 7 months off. And with the second child, I was back to work pretty quickly. I think I needed it for my sanity.
It's kind of a break.
It's a break, and and you realize that they're going to be fine. They don't need you to be there 24/7, that they're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. I think that's also why I like working in TV. It kind of gives me the flexibility to be like, okay, I have to take my kid to the doctor today. I'm going to be late. Or I have to leave early to pick up my child from school. Still trying to figure it out. I'm exhausted.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. And do you think being in a high position like you are, do you think that makes it a little bit easier as far as having your flexibility and being able to do things like that?
Definitely. And I also think it's kind of like I've worked my time and I worked my way up and I have a certain reputation, so people know that I'm going to get the job done no matter what, even if I have to work from home because I have to take care of my child for a day or something. I think that I'm not new to the game, which I think helps a lot.
Yeah, so you feel like you get some benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Your reputation hasn't slipped since you became a mother?
No, it hasn't. But that baby brain is really,
that's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
I mean, I wish I could tell you that it comes back, but I can't.
And it's like, at work, baby brain doesn't exist. At home with the children, it doesn't exist. But like, my husband keeps telling me, you really are forgetful. Like, just like little things that I would have always been on top of, just like household things. Like, I don't have room in my brain for those things right now.
It's like, what, we have no toilet paper? Well, who saw that coming?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so you're married and your husband also works.
Yes.
So how have you negotiated between the two of you how to manage the working and the children in the home? What kind of negotiation have you had to do?
As in like daily chores or just.
Yeah, well, I ask this because the data shows that women who work full-time and have babies still have 70% of the household duties. So I'm just wondering, is that true for you, or have you guys been able to negotiate a better balance?
I think, truthfully, my husband would be an amazing stay-at-home dad. He would probably be better than me. And he's such a family man, so we really have split it like 50-50. I don't feel like I do more than he does.
That's cool.
When I was breastfeeding, it felt like it was all on me. But now that
it is in that moment.
Yeah.
He can't do that.
But now that that's slowly going away, like he does the night shift, so like I can sleep full the night, and then I do the morning shift. So we're a really good team for that. I don't feel like it's all on my shoulders.
That's great. What are you the most proud of?
Gosh, I was maybe just, for right now, I think I'm really proud of being able to raise two children in New York City and really, really two humble kids, I guess, I would say. It's tricky. Like, raising kids in general is not easy. Raising kids in New York City in a small apartment where you have to walk everywhere and it's cold and it's winter and
that seems impossible.
Yeah, and I never thought I would have kids in New York City. I always said I'm never going to have a family in New York. And here I am married with two kids and I still live here.
What are you thinking?
I know. Every time I go back to Florida, I'm like, why don't I live in a house with
a yard?
Well,
there's always Connecticut and New Jersey.
Yeah, we're looking into that too. One day we have to leave the suburbs. Leave Brooklyn.
Yeah, here comes the minivan. I hear it.
I know.
It's okay. I have one. It's okay. It's going to
be okay, right?
Yeah, it's totally fine. It took me a minute though. There are days when if I'm driving around in the minivan without any kids with me, I feel like a fool. This giant car like a bus. I'm like, what am I doing?
That's the life, though. I guess that's what I aim for these days.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a finite period in your life, the minivan years. I'm almost on the other side of it where I get to have a sexy sports car. I'm a few years away.
There's an end to it.
That's right. You don't have to have a minivan forever. Did you have a mentor?
A specific mentor? No. But I was fortunate enough to, like, all the companies I worked for, there was always a really strong woman leading it, which I think I'm very fortunate for. Like, I didn't really work a lot under men. It was always women.
So you had some good examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mentor women or people?
Not specifically, no. I do feel like, though, now when I hire a team, it's a lot of millennials,
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I sometimes feel like I have to parent them, or maybe I'm just feeling old.
No, it's funny about the millennials. They are such a distinct generation that everybody talks about. And I don't remember all this talk about Generation X or Generation Y. But millennials are really leaving their imprint on people.
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. Like, I find that a lot of, I guess, all those young people, millennials, feel very, what's the word? Entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And I really shouldn't, I guess maybe I felt I was that way too, since I got promoted so quickly. But I don't feel I was ever rude about it. Like, I did the work and I showed that I could do it, and then I got promoted, and I feel like millennials, I'm just calling them that, they just come in and they want it right away without doing work. They don't, I don't know. At least the ones that I've come across.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, actually. That seems to be a pretty consistent pattern. So what would you tell them? If you could speak to all millennials about entering the workforce, what would you say?
Just work hard. Work hard. And sometimes the ones that aren't, I mean, you work does it all. And it's you have one reputation. And as soon as you put a bad mark on someone, like, unfortunately that is going to follow you wherever you go. Especially, when I look at a resume and I don't actually call the references on that resume, I will find someone that I know that has worked with them, and that's where I get the recommendation from. And you just have one chance, really, to make a good impression, to work hard.
You can't afford to have a bad show because the business is too small.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, that's good advice. Did you ever feel like you had any discrimination getting where you were, or was it pretty easy?
There was one show that I maybe worked at when I was on the verge of being promoted to director, and I think I was looked down upon at that time because I was a woman. But I proved them wrong.
Good. Good for you. Is there a goal that you haven't accomplished yet that you still want to do?
Buy a house.
Oh, there you go. You're moving to the suburbs. I hear it. Back to minivan.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's funny. Ever since I had kids, like, now my focus is solely on them. I feel like I've gotten to a point in my career that I'm happy and comfortable with. I think it also is because my kids are so young. I don't know, once they get older, maybe it'll shift a little bit more and I'll come up with a new goal in my career. But for right now, I'm so focused and I'm so into this raising two little kids, that I'm happy with where I am in my career.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I waited this long, to have kids, so that I was already at my goal, my goal of where I wanted to be in my career until I had children.
Yeah, that's smart. Do you feel like you're a success?
I don't know. I don't really, I guess so. I never really thought of it. I don't look at myself that way. I'm proud of the shows that I do. So I think in the eyes of maybe my family, I am a success. But yeah, I'm pretty humble. My husband would probably say something different, but.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Are you a badass?
Yeah, of course I am. You have to be a badass to survive in this industry.
What does badass mean to you?
To me, just like working hard and being good at what you do and knowing that you're good at it, but not in a cocky way.
Yeah. What advice would you give other women just starting out, millennials or not?
Just to go with your instinct. I think being a woman, sometimes we second guess ourselves a lot in daily things. But your instinct is always right, and just going with your gut. And if you know that you're going to be good at something, just keep fighting for it.
Do you ever feel like an imposter?
What do you mean?
Like, do you ever feel like, yes, I've got this job and I'm doing really well, but sooner or later they're all going to find out I really have no idea what I'm doing?
No, never.
Good. Good for you. No, I ask because a lot of women do. Very successful. It's a funny phenomenon I've been thinking a lot about lately. Have you had to consciously adjust how you communicate with people to be successful?
Yes. And I'm really noticing that now when I have to, I guess, mentor or just when my team is so young, I really have to think of how I word things, because I feel like I sometimes want to parent rather than be their boss.
Can you give an example?
That makes sense.
No, it does, but do you have an example?
There was one particular person who was working for me who was excellent at her job. She was really, really good, and she was new to the game, and she had worked for me. It was probably mid-season, the first reality show that she had been doing. And she was really, really good. And she wanted to be promoted quickly. And she came into my office and had a presentation, basically, of all the things that she was doing and that she was doing well. And she kind of wanted to sell me on promoting her really quickly, but unfortunately in that series that we were working on, there was no room to promote her. And she was a millennial. She was very entitled. She was very strong. And I had to really control myself and try to explain to her in a professional way why I couldn't promote her. And at the time
Did she get mad in the room?
She wasn't mad, but she wanted it so bad that she started tearing up a little bit, and she just didn't want to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And was just very, very persistent of like, this is everything that I do, and this is why you need to do this, and this is the amount of money I want to make, and
yeah, sometimes it's not about you. It's about the structure of the show you're working within.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think she just didn't want no for an answer, and it left a bad taste on me. And that's when we go back to, you have only one reputation. And I think her work ethic is amazing, but now I'm a little hesitant to recommend her because she came off just so aggressive, which sometimes you can't be so aggressive.
I mean, and on the one hand, good for her for asking and being prepared and making the case.
Totally, yeah, totally. But she should, she kind of crossed a line where she just kept fighting for it after I had explained why it couldn't happen.
Yeah. And then do you then have the opportunity to do a postmortem? Now let me coach you on how that went. No.
Did you? I think she got defeated. I think it hurt her. I think she took it personally.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I understand. I mean, it's hard for me because maybe that's how I was when I was younger too. I don't know.
Did she stay with the show?
She didn't. She finished the season, And then she agreed to come back, and like the week before we came back, she told me she got another job, which that left a bad impression on me as well. You don't do that when you've already said you're coming back.
Yeah.
So she kind of left me in a bind, but, you know, we all survive.
Yeah. I mean, it may be better in the big picture.
Yeah, she wanted to move up, so she found somewhere else that would bump her up.
Do you think you make as much money as your male counterparts?
No.
Huh. How come?
I don't know. I don't, it's such a tricky thing finding out about salary because you don't ever want to talk about it. So I'm just assuming that the males make more than I do.
Do you negotiate going in?
I do. I wish I would, yeah, I do. But it's so hard, it's so tricky, especially, I feel like it's a hard battle, negotiating.
Why?
I guess it's just not my thing. I'm not comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
And it's also just kind of figuring out what you're worth and knowing that someone's making a lot of money on whatever show that you work on, and you may be doing more of the work. So it's just the way, I guess, the cookie crumbles.
In your position, do you ever get to see the budget?
On this particular one, no.
You know, how do you find out what other people are making, you know, without coming out and saying, you know, I expect to be paid the same as so-and-so?
Yeah. I think I figured out now, because, like, I know the budget for my team, and I see what everyone makes. And I try to be fair. It's all about experience. Like, there's a sliding scale for everything. But it also, knowing what people make shouldn't be your tool to getting more money. Like, I've had people come up to me and be like, hey, well, I know this person makes that, so I want to make that. And that just is like a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if, like, for example, like one person was a coordinator, so she knew what everyone was making. And then when she was promoted to a different position, she wanted to get the same rate that the previous person was making there. And she only knew that because she was privy to the rate. Right. But that person had a lot of experience. So it's explaining, like, one, don't throw someone else's salary in my face. And two, it's about experience, which you don't have as much experience.
Right. It's your first time.
Yeah.
It does make a difference. What has been your craziest day at work? Like, I know production can just be some days wild things happen. You just can't even believe this business. Do you have any stories like that?
No, not really. I feel like the field always has crazy stories in post, which is why I enjoy post so much, because it's kind of like a normal day.
Much less drama.
Much less drama. If there's drama, it's just maybe you stay late a couple hours later because you have to get a cutout. But it's not because the cast is, like, screaming at you.
Something's on fire.
Yeah.
What do you make of the state of women in this business right now?
I mean, I think we're all doing really good. I think, I guess maybe it's just what I've come across is that a lot of us are very successful, and I feel like I'm coming across more women now in higher positions. Mm-hmm. I also feel like there's some sort of camaraderie, or what's the word? I think there's a camaraderie of, like, mothers that work in this business. Like, there's just some sort of understanding, and I also feel like I would hire mothers, because I know that they're going to come and they're going to do their work because they need to get home because they have to do their other job when they get home, raise their children.
Isn't that the truth?
Like, we don't have hours to spare. The hours of, like, when I didn't have kids and maybe would spend too much time on the internet doing God knows what while I was at work, like, that just doesn't exist anymore. I can't even read a book.
Now it's get in, get it done, get out.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that is the reality. But then when you survey people in business, there's this big perception that women kind of lose it once they have babies and become less efficient, which is actually the opposite of what happens.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell when a woman becomes a mother and she comes back to work, like, you can see it.
Yeah. And I think, like, in the beginning, it's hard because you feel so guilty and you just want to be home and you feel like you're missing every little moment. So you rush home. But I think once you get over that first year is like a whole year of adapting to the new life that you just have. Mm-hmm. But once you get over that, like, and you realize that you're not missing every little moment, I just want to get to work, do my thing, be creative, get back to my old self just for, 6 to 8 hours, however long I'm at work, and get home and be a mom. And that's what's hard too now is like I'm exhausted. I'm so good at work and I'm creative and I'm great and then I have this energy and then I get home and it's like mealtime and bath and it's just like a whole other tornado going off because it's like I have to get these kids to sleep and I want to hang out with them. I'm just exhausted by the end of the night, but that's just the way life is now.
Yeah, and it won't be forever. And you are in the manual labor stage.
Oh my God.
Where you just are sweaty all the time.
Yeah.
At least that's how I remember it. I was sweaty and in tears for years.
It's just like I'm so excited to get home to see them, and then like within an hour, I'm like, oh my God, I just need to put you guys to sleep because I just need to sit down.
It's so true. I mean, we love our babies, but boy, oh boy, it's exhausting.
And it's just like I don't have time to think about me. Like, it's meals for them. It's giving them a bath. Like, half the day I'm like, God, did I brush my hair today? I think so. Like, you don't even know. I don't even, it's crazy. But I wouldn't change it.
Are you pumping at work?
I was. I just recently stopped. And with my first child, I didn't pump because I took the 7 months off. So I never had to pump at work. But 7 months, I just wasn't making enough. And the second child, it's the same thing. I just don't make enough for them by the time I get to 7 months. So for my second one, I was pumping at work, and gosh, that was torture.
How so?
Just because every, 3 hours, I had to, shut the door and pump for, it's easily, 30 minutes once you get everything going and get back dressed up.
Oh, for sure.
And then taking the milk every home and every day. It was just...
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing, and it's so annoying, but it's labor of love.
Yeah. Was your office supportive?
Yes, very.
Great.
Very.
Makes all the difference.
Yeah, I have a great, both my EPs have families, so, and when we started working on the show, no one had kids, and now we all have kids, so.
That's great. Are you going to have the credits in the end of the show, babies?
Yeah, right.
I love it.
We keep talking about, we need to start a daycare here because we all have kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be so great. Kind of, I guess.
Kind of. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea now of where you want to be in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, God.
Are you trying to make it through the next 5 days?
Yeah, just trying to make it towards, get over the first year of having 2 kids.
Yeah. And you know what? That's enough. I don't need to press you. You are doing enough.
Yeah.
Tell me if this is true. Is the reality television world much more dominated by women?
I think it depends. I separate field and post.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the post world, it's a lot of women, and maybe in the field, it's a lot of men. But I think that's just from my own experience working on this show for so long.
And what about the executives at networks that you report to?
I've had a mixture. I've had a mixture of women and men. I want to say it's been pretty fair, pretty equal.
That's great. As it should be.
Yeah.
Also, did you work on Say Yes to the Dress?
I did.
I was going to say, we love that show at my house.
You know what? I did that as I would just do it on weekends. It was before I had kids, and it was just, I was a shooter, so I would shoot the weddings. And it would just be like, hey, we need someone to shoot. Will you come shoot? So it was just kind of like a second job whenever they needed somebody. And I loved it because it was like you're shooting the happiest moment of someone's life. There was no drama. It was just 3 hours and you got a full rate. It was great.
Yeah, that's
now I don't have time.
Yeah. No, can you imagine leaving on Saturday?
God, no.
Honey, I'm going
My
to go.
husband would kill me.
It's impossible. It's all hands on deck at your house. I know it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending so much time.
Thanks, Julie.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, A History of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Beatriz Mascaro for sharing her story. And special thanks to Jonathan Lucas for editing, Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on iTunes and subscribe and leave a review. And of course on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Other 50% and Instagram at Other 50% Podcast. And don't forget to check out The Other 50%, A History of Tech. Thanks for listening. See you next time.